My grandfather came from Poland, and my grandmother came from Romania.
Bubby and Poppy. Their childhood was hard because of the war.
4 families were sharing one room.
His father owned a very large bus company. My mother's side were writers, and they were very creative.
Traveling on a bus through different places, and he was in Siberia, and he saw polar bears face to face.
They're always together and laugh with each other.
They met in the vocational school.
And they didn't speak that much English.
He worked 12-hour days, and then he still went out with my grandmother afterwards.
They're always smiling, and they're always nice to us, like they're never in a bad mood.
It took till 80 for them to start really enjoying the fruits of their labor.
Never forget who you are, and always be proud to be Jewish, and don't let people tell you can't be what you want or do what you want.
This is a story of Henry and Julie and family.
My name is Henry. I was born in 1930 in Łódź, Poland. When I grew up, we lived in a high-rise. It was me, my sister, and my parents. It was the 4 of us. My grandparents lived in a town about 25 miles away from Łódź, and we used to visit them for all the high holidays and the important holidays, so I was always in touch with my mother's family. My father's family lived a little farther away from Łódź, and we used to go down maybe 3-4 times a year to visit my grandmother, and my grandfather was not alive anymore. I was named after him, my father's father. The name of my sister is Fela. Now she's married, and her married name is Ramras. My mother was one of the best mothers somebody can wish for. My father was deeply in love with my mother, and they had an extremely happy marriage. We were not allowed to aggravate her. We always had to agree, and my mother, we had not a big apartment, but we always had a girl working for us. So my mother didn't have to work too hard. We had to have a lot of respect from my mother, especially. It didn't matter whether my mother said something right or wrong. My father was very strict. I went to private school in Łódź till the war broke out. I think about 3-4 days prior to the war, I finished school. The war broke out in 1939.
Poland, September 1939. The German foe begins its ruthless march of conquest and sets the stage for World War II. Poland's 34 million inhabitants, crushed, scattered, and enslaved. Tens of thousands of square miles of territory shrink before the movement of lightning armored columns. Poland and the world learn the meaning of a grim new word, blitzkrieg.
And since my father was in the automobile business, and that was one of the biggest business in Poland, that he was there with quite a few partners, it was not by himself. So when the war broke out, the government told my father and all the partners that all the buses have to be there for the Polish military to get to the front. But he hit one bus, and this is how we escaped. Our whole idea was to go through Poland to the Ukrainians and eventually wind up in Romania. And we wanted to go across the borders through Iran or Iraq, I don't remember which, and go to Israel. But what had happened when we got there, there was a lot of shooting on the way, and I was a young kid, and I saw the Polish military, and the German Messerschmitts came down and were shooting with machine guns. When we got to the Ukrainians, when we got near Romania, the borders were closed. It was overflow with too many people.